it's rare that you get to talk to somebody who spent 11 years in Russia as a journalist. That's pretty fascinating.
Yes.
So I've never been to Russia. So in some ways, I don't want to exaggerate my level of knowledge here to draw this theory. But do you think just as a matter of I'm going to offer it as a theory, and you tell me whether you think it's just true or off the wall? Do you think that in some ways, right? I'm going to assume that the magnitude of government overreach from legal or constitutional constraint, like the amount of that overreach, is far greater in Russia in the time you spent there than here. I'll assume that as a baseline. But do you think that even against that backdrop, the danger to the citizenry might actually in certain ways be worse here because we are conditioned not to already be in on the game, right? In a certain sense, you watch the movie The Lives of Others or whatever, like it's kind of a depressing state when you've seen that movie? It's like,
Absolutely, yes. It's a great movie.
Right,
East German,
it's like an all-time great. It's like
Yeah.
an awesome, well done, not too heavy, not on the nose, but just like there's a certain existential melancholy where you just know that like you're being surveilled, but you just sort of accepted it. So
I actually think that's an important movie for Americans to watch.
oh, it's such
now.
an important. I can't even remember. Is the movie in English or not? I can't even remember.
I think it's in German.
It
but,
landed so much in your heart that you even forget the medium of transmission. It's that good. I think it might have been in German. But anyway, it's like what East Germany was like, back in the day. But here, we don't have that melancholy spirit. But in a certain sense, we're just then like oblivious that okay, maybe the magnitude of government overreach beyond the limits of legal constitutional restraint are greater in Russia, but people know what's going on, so there's no lie, right? There's no fundamental dishonesty. But the sleight of hand, in some ways, actually leaves us through the blitheness of our ignorance or willful blindness to our own government's non-zero overreach actually in some ways is more liberty restraining just because of the sheer absence of knowledge of it. Is that a bridge too far, or do you think that that's not a crazy point?
I think you're absolutely right. So when I first went to Russia, I went as a 19-year-old. I'm old enough that I actually studied during the Soviet era. So
oh, wow.
I went to a Soviet institute.
When was
Russia.
this? Just to time mark this. You were
1989.
In 89. Okay, got it.
Yep. So when I got there, I remember this very vividly. There was a Russian student in my dorm, and he had bought a newspaper, and I was curious what he was reading, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't buy this to read." He went upstairs, and he was stuffing his winter coat with the pages of the newspaper because he wanted extra insulation. Nobody read Soviet newspapers.
They used the insulation. That's funny.
Yeah, exactly. They used them for other things. They covered their windows to keep the sunlight out, or they put them in the bottoms of bird cages. It was the idea of reading a newspaper and actually expecting to get real information out of it was laughable to even people who were I would say good communists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the people who believed in the system. They were like, yeah, whatever. We don't have that in America. We are not conditioned to look at our systems of media with the same kind of suspicion that is drilled into people who've lived in a society like that, and they know how it works. We think we have this very functional free press, and I think we did have a very relatively strong press for a long time. It's just that it's slid so much in the last 10 years. And we're in this place where, as you say, Americans they're defenseless against this kind of thing because they've never seen it before,
mm-hmm.
or they don't think they have. And so I think you're right. It's that, and also, the American intelligence services and our systems of media, we're just much more powerful, sophisticated. They have more resources than a country like Russia does
Sure.
to pull off certain things. So that's why I'd worry here.
Yeah, I mean, the best case scenario is you have a constitution and you follow it. The worst case scenario is that you have well, I guess you could debate what the worst case scenario is. Is the worst case scenario that you have no constitution, you don't follow it, or that you do have one and you don't follow it? Because in a certain sense,
I mean, it could be either, right?
You can actually make the case for the latter.